Hey friends, what's up? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Beis, Daf 2 of Masechta Yevamos. This is the first Daf of Masechta Yevamos. Also, what's interesting is the first Daf of Seder Noshim, which is cool. I mean, other than Brachis, we've been in Seder Moed the entire time since we began studying together. And now we are beginning with Yevamos. Now, friends, Yevamos is kind of mind-blowing. Take that however you want. It'll blow your mind in one way or another. Well, today we're going to do the first Mishnah of Yevamos. I think that should be enough, and then go sleep for a few days and come back. Anyways, what is Yibum? So Yibum comes up from time to time. Basically Yibum, okay, so friends, first of all, we're going to be doing a lot of Ruvens and Shimons and Saras and Rivkas and Rachels and Leahs and Levis and Yaakovs and all sorts of these kinds of things. So let's just, without missing a beat, let's just jump into some Ruven, Shimon, Sarah, Rivka stuff. So Yibum is that if you have two brothers, now what's important is that these two brothers are brothers from a father and not brothers from a mother. Woof! Here we go already. Mind blown. Anyways, Yibum, so what is Yibum? Yibum is that Reuven and Shimon are brothers, right? Although the Torah says, right, Shimon v'Levi achim, akuponim. So Reuven and Shimon are brothers, and Reuven is married to Sarah. Reuven dies. Him and Sarah don't have any children. So the halacha is at the end of Parshas Kiseitze that Sarah now has to marry Reuven's brother Shimon. That's what Yibum is, and in that way, hopefully they'll have children, and the name of the brother will live on. The name of Reuven will live on. Fine. Now, there is an alternative, which is if for whatever reason they don't do Yibum, they could do what's called chalitza. They take off a shoe, spit on the ground, whatever it is. And then that basically, calls off that union. That's essentially what chalitza, Yibum is, and you can kind of call it off through this chalitza process. Fine. Now, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, what are considered brothers for Yibum is that you share a father, right? Not necessarily share a mother, right? You have to have the same father. Okay, fine. Now, it says our Mishnah, Chomesh Esrei Noshim Potris Tsarosein Vitzaros Tsarosein Min HaChalitzo Min HaYibum Ad Sof HaOlam. Wow. So, the Mishnah says that there are 15 instances, there are 15 cases where we don't do Chalitza because of, we don't do Chalitza, we also don't do Yibum. Really, we don't do Yibum. There are 15 cases where we don't do Yibum, because of the fact that they are arayos. There's erva, right? Meaning the psukim in Kedoshim and in Acharemos discuss different relationships. For example, a father and his daughter, right? Or, your sister, things like that. So those are forbidden relationships. So if it would occur that a forbidden relationship would result via Yibum, and we're going to give 15 examples of such relationships in a minute. So if Yibum would create such a relationship, so then Yibum is called off. But not only is Yibum called off, now, of course, according to the Torah, we don't do this anymore, but according to the Torah, a person can have more than one wife, right? Of course, Yaakov Avinu, right? So anyways, technically according to the Torah, you can have more than one wife. So a tzara is what's called a co-wife is a tzara. And what we're saying is that in the event that that we would call off Yibum out of concern for a forbidden relationship, so that wouldn't just apply to the forbidden relationship itself, and we'll give an example in a second, but it also applies to any co-wives, if those co-wives end up having different co-wives, then it applies to them too. Okay. Maybe I'll give an example of this in a second. And just one more thing to point out, which is what's interesting, is that Yibum is inherently a forbidden relationship, right? Meaning, you're not allowed to marry your brother's wife, right? If they get divorced, right? If Reuven is married to Sarah and they get divorced, Shimon is not allowed to marry Sarah. Now, what's interesting is that in the context of Yibum, however, it becomes allowed, and we're saying that nonetheless, that is allowed, but any of these other examples are not allowed. So, let's now give a practical example of what this means. So let's say Reuven is married to Sarah. Gewaldig. But let me tell you something interesting about Sarah. Sarah, now friends, listen very, very carefully. Very, very carefully. Otherwise, your mind's going to get blown, or, I don't know, just friends, you have to pay attention. So you have Reuven is married to Sarah. Gewaldig. But let me tell you something about Sarah. Sarah is Reuven's brother Shimon's daughter. Technically speaking, you're allowed to marry your niece. Right? According to Torah, you're allowed to marry your niece. I think that there are places where people even do it. Anyways, technically speaking, you're allowed to marry your niece. So, Reuven is married to Sarah. Sarah is Shimon's daughter. So Reuven is basically married to his niece. Reuven dies. He and Sarah don't have any children. So technically speaking, according to Yibum, well, Sarah would marry Shimon. The problem is, Shimon is Sarah's father. So therefore they're not going to do Yibum. Yibum is called off. And as we said a minute ago, not only is Yibum called off for Sarah, but if Sarah had a co-wife, Rivka, right? Reuven had two wives, Sarah and Rivka. Rivka also would not do Yibum with Shimon, because technically speaking, Yibum just has to be with one of the wives, right? Let's say Reuven was married to, right? Let's say Sarah and Rivka weren't related to Shimon in any kind of way. So then either Sarah or Rivka would do Yibum with Shimon. However, in this case where Sarah is the daughter of Shimon, and therefore Sarah and Shimon will not be doing Yibum, so then also not just Sarah, but also Rivka, Sarah's co-wife, would not do Yibum with Shimon either. And then, as we said, that not only does it apply to the co-wife, but also the co-wife's co-wives. What that means is that, well, let's say there's a third brother, Levi. So Reuven's dead. Shimon is the father of Sarah, so that gets called off. But there is still Levi. There's still Levi. So, right, you could do Yibum with Levi. So what happens if Rivka then marries Levi, right? So while she wouldn't do Yibum with Shimon, on account of Shimon being the father of Sarah, which was Rivka's co-wife when they were married to Reuven, but Rivka can do Yibum with the other brother, which is Levi. So now what happens if Rivka marries Levi, and Levi also has another wife, so Rachel. So now Rivka and Rachel are now married to Levi, and Levi dies. So what's interesting is that even though Rivka has no relation to Shimon, right? So now both Reuven and Levi died, so nobody has any kids. So Yibum is gonna once again surface. So who's the candidate for Yibum? Shimon. Now technically Shimon is not related to either Rivka or Rachel, but at the end of the day, Shimon is Sarah's father, and because Sarah and Rivka were co-wives when they were married to Reuven, and therefore neither Sarah nor Rivka are going to do Yibum with Shimon. So then, even when Rivka then goes and marries Levi and is a co-wife with Rachel, and then Levi dies, so then neither Rivka or Rachel are going to do Yibum with Shimon, because we said that not only does the daughter not do Yibum with Shimon, but also her co-wife is not going to do Yibum with Shimon, and also any future co-wives of that co-wives are also not going to do Yibum with Shimon. Friends, how's Yevamos so far? Alright, well, I'm glad you're enjoying. Anyways, don't worry, it's only 4 months. Okay, so says the Mishnah, Chomish Esrei Nashim Potris Tzarosein So 15 women, they are poter, they're tsaris, that these women don't do yibum with the brother, and we're going to give the 15 examples. We just gave one of them, which was when it would be, when Sarah is Shimon's daughter. That's only one of 15 examples, friends. So there are 15 examples where an erva would not do yibum, and also her co-wife would not do yibum. V'tzaros saying, and any future co-wives of her co-wife would not do yibum. Mina chalitza or mina yibum, say wouldn't do chalitza, nor would they do yibum ad sof ha'olam, and that it just continues forever. Kilu, the erva doesn't do yibum, or the tzara's tzaras, or their tzaras, right? Nobody's right. Once there's a forbidden yibum relationship, then that just kind of percolates. Or what's that called in JavaScript when an event? I don't think it's called bubbles. What's it called in a JavaScript when an event? The event. Oh man, what's that called? The event. Oh, now I'm forgetting what it calls. The event. Give me a second. I have to think about some JavaScript for a second. Propagate. Event propagation, I believe is the word in JavaScript. You want to prevent, right? And like, what was it called? Like jQuery, they would do like event.prevent default or something. I feel like we don't do that anymore. I feel like we don't do that stuff anymore. I don't know. Like in React, like you don't really, I never call anything like stop propagation. I don't know why. I guess I don't know. Friends, we got some Yevamos to do. Fine. Fine. Friends, you ready? These are the examples. I might need your help over here. So Bito, so his daughter, okay, as we just explained, right? That if Ruvain is married to Shimon's daughter, okay, and then Ruvain dies, then Shimon doesn't do chalitza with his daughter, doesn't do yibum with his daughter or chalitza. Fine. Uvas Bito, or the daughter of his daughter. So how does that work? Okay, so Bas Bito, so the daughter of his daughter could be a situation like this, right? So like, let's say Ruvain marries Sarah, and they have a daughter, Rivke, right? So there's like, let's say there's three brothers, Ruvain, Shimon, and Levi, okay? So Ruvain marries Sarah, and they have a daughter, Rivke. Rivke then marries Shimon, right? So Shimon basically marries his niece, Rivke, okay? And then Shimon and Rivke have a daughter, Rachel, okay? And then Levi marries Rachel, okay? Levi then dies. So now Rachel technically would do yibum with the brother, right? So, well, she can't do it with Shimon because Shimon's her father, and also she wouldn't be able to do yibum with Ruvain either because Ruvain is her grandfather, right? Is Bas Bito, is the daughter of his daughter, and similarly, although I guess technically in that case, the daughter, right, Rivka, the daughter wouldn't necessarily have to be married to Shimon, right? Theoretically, you can have Ruvain married to Sarah, and they have a daughter, Rivka. Rivka marries some other person, could be anybody, and then together they have a daughter, and then that daughter marries, let's say, the brother Shimon, and then Shimon dies, so we would say that, the daughter would not marry Ruvain because that would be the daughter of his daughter. Okay. Additionally, the daughter of his son would just be a very similar case, which is that Ruvain marries Sarah. They have a son. The son gets married. They have a daughter. The daughter marries the brother Shimon, and then Shimon dies. So again, the daughter, the granddaughter, right, would not marry Ruvain because it would be the daughter of his son. Okay, so Bas Ishto. So Bas Ishto would be like if Ruvain marries Sarah. Now the thing is that Sarah already had a daughter from a previous marriage, right? So it's Bas Ishto. So Kilu, let's say Sarah's daughter is Rivke. So Rivke, at the time that Ruvain married Sarah, Rivke was already born. And then, so Rivke is the daughter of his wife, but not necessarily his daughter. So now, Rivke then marries Ruvain's brother Shimon, and then Shimon dies, so Rivke wouldn't marry Ruvain because she's the daughter, even though it's Yibum, but still she's the daughter of Reuven's wife. Okay, uvas beno, uvas bita, and also, if Rivka's or kilu, if Reuven is married to Sarah, and then Sarah already had a daughter or already had a son, and then that son or daughter from an earlier marriage has a child, right? So bas bina, bas bita, right? So the son of Sarah's daughter from a different marriage, or the son of Sarah's son from a different marriage. The daughter of Sarah's daughter from a different marriage, or the daughter of Sarah's son from a different marriage. If either one of those sort of granddaughters marries Reuven's brother Shimon, so then if Shimon dies, Yibum would not take place between Reuven and his granddaughter. Even if it's not technically his granddaughter, because it was from a child of Sarah's from a previous marriage, but nonetheless, Reuven would not do Yibum with this child, because it is sort of a descendant of his current wife. Okay, fine. Chamoso, ve'em chamoso, ve'em chomib, his mother-in-law. Okay, fine. Let's say, Reuven, or let's just say Shimon maybe. Okay, Shimon is married to Rivka. Okay, and Rivka's mother is Sarah. So Shimon's mother-in-law is Sarah. Givaldig. Sarah's husband passes away or whatever, and Sarah then marries Reuven, right? So Shimon is married to Rivka, Rivka's mother is Sarah. Somehow Sarah ends up getting married to Reuven, and then Reuven dies, and Reuven and Sarah didn't have any children, and Reuven doesn't have any children, so then Shimon would not do Yibum with his mother-in-law, and also the mother of his mother-in-law, and the mother of his father-in-law, right? Very similar, right? So also, if let's even go down a generation. So let's say you have Levi is married to Rachel, and then his mother-in-law is Levi's mother-in-law is Rivka. Rivka's mother is Sarah, so Levi's mother-in-law's mother is Sarah. Sarah then ends up somehow getting married to, let's say, Reuven. They don't have any children. Reuven dies. So Levi would not do Yibum with Sarah because it's his mother-in-law's mother. Similarly, if it was his father-in-law's mother, the same thing. If she somehow ended up getting married to Reuven, and Reuven dies, there's no kids. So then Levi would not do Yibum or Chalitza with the father-in-law's mother either. Okay, fine. Achoso me'imo. Okay, so what's the case of Achoso me'imo, his sister from his mother? So, like this. So, let's say you have Yaakov, right? Yaakov is the father of Reuven, Shimon, and Levi, and everybody. So you have Yaakov. Yaakov marries Sarah. Alright, Mazel Tov. Now the thing is, when Yaakov marries Sarah, so Yaakov already had a son, Reuven, and Sarah already had a daughter, Rivka. Beautiful. Givaldik. So now, Reuven and Rivka are not related at all, right? They both were born separately to different, right? Reuven was born to Yaakov before Yaakov was married to Sarah. Rivka was already born. They're not related. They can get married. Now, together Yaakov and Sarah have a son, Shimon. So now, while Reuven and Rivka are not related because they were from previous marriages, Shimon is kind of the connective tissue between them, because Shimon and Rivka have the same mother, and Shimon and Reuven have the same father, and because Yibum goes based on the father, so if Reuven marries Rivka, and now they are, and they're married, but Reuven dies, so then Shimon is going to have to do Yibum, but Rivka is his sister, where they share a mother, so we don't do Yibum in that case, right? So that's the situation of Achos Me'imo, the Achos Imo, and similarly the sister of his mother. Okay, so how does the sister of his mother work? So let's say like this. So let's say you have Levi, And Levi is married to Rachel. Okay. Now Rachel's mother is Rivka, and Rivka's sister is Sarah. Okay, so Levi is married to Rachel. Rachel's mother is Rivka. Rivka's sister is Sarah. Sarah then marries Levi's brother. Let's call him Shimon. And then, okay, so, oh no, wait, 1 second. I think I screwed that one up. Wait, 1 second. Okay, this one's kind of crazy. Okay. So you ready, friends? So you have Yaakov, Givaldik, and Yaakov is married to Sarah and Rivka. Yaakov is married to Sarah and he's married to Rivka. Okay. And with Sarah, he has a son, Reuven. And with Rivka, he has a son, Shimon. Okay. That's very beautiful. So now Reuven, who is the son of Sarah, is permitted to marry Rivka, i.e., right, his father's other wife's sister, Rachel. Okay, so again, Yaakov is married to Sarah and is married to Rivka, and Sarah's son is Reuven, Rivka's son is Shimon, Rivka's sister is Rachel. So now, Reuven, who's Sarah's son, marries Rivka's sister Rachel. Givaldig. It's Givaldig until Reuven dies. Now, because Reuven and Shimon are both the sons of Yaakov, they have the same father, so then Rachel, who's Rivka's sister, now comes to do Yibum with Shimon. The problem is that Rachel is Shimon's mother's sister. Right? Rachel, what is this, Jewish geography or something? I guess maybe I should have done more Jewish geography. Maybe it would have helped. But anyways, Shimon can't do Yibum with Rachel because Rachel is Shimon's mother Rivka's sister. Alright, sounds good to me. Okay, so Va'achos Ishto, so that one's actually pretty straightforward. Well, straightforward I guess is relative. But let's say you have Reuven and Shimon who are brothers, and then you have Sarah and Rivka are sisters. Reuven is married to Sarah, Shimon is married to Rivka. Givaldi. Reuven dies and they don't have any children. So now Sarah would do Yibum with Shimon. The problem is that Sarah is Shimon's wife's sister, right? That Shimon's wife is Rivka. Rivka's sister is Sarah. So because Sarah is Shimon's wife, Rivka's sister, so they don't do Yibum either. Okay, so Ve'eshes Achiv Me'imo, so the wife of his brother from his mother. Okay, how does this one work? So the way that this one works is that if you have Yaakov, and Yaakov marries Sarah, Mazel Tov. Now, the interesting thing is that at the time of the wedding, the time of their marriage, Yaakov already had a son, Reuven. And at the time of the marriage, Sarah already had a son, Shimon. Okay, so Reuven. So at the time that Yaakov marries Sarah, there already were kids. Yaakov brought into the marriage Reuven. Sarah brought into the marriage Shimon. They are not related to each other. Givaldig. And then together, Yaakov and Sarah have a son, and they name him Levi. Very original. Givaldig. Now, Shimon, who is Sarah's son from a previous marriage, so Shimon gets married. Mazel tov to him. And then he gets divorced. Okay, it happens. And then, so Shimon was married to Rivka. They got divorced. Then Rivka goes and she marries Reuven, who is the son of Yaakov from the previous marriage. Givaldi, Mazel tov. Reuven dies. It happens. They don't have any kids. So now, here's what happens. So Rivka looks at Levi, and they're like, wait a second. But 1 second, this is complicated. They say it's not going to work because the problem is that Rivka, once upon a time, was married to Shimon, who was Levi's brother from Sarah, right? Because Shimon was Sarah's son from a previous marriage. Yaakov and Sarah together had Levi. So Levi and Shimon both have the same mother, Sarah. Shimon was married to Rivka. They got divorced or whatever. And then Rivka then married Reuven. Reuven dies. And now Rivka comes up to Levi for Yibum. But the thing is that it's not going to work because Rivka was Levi's brother from the same mother, from Sarah, Shimon's wife once upon a time. Therefore, they don't do Yibum. Okay, so that's the case of the wife of one's brother from your mother. Ve'eshes achiv shelo haya ba'olamu, and the wife of your brother that you never overlapped with in the world. So this is a case where, so this case of, shelo haya ba'olamu, right, the wife of his brother who was not in the world. Ve'eshes achiv shelo haya ba'olamu, meaning that they didn't overlap. So what this means is, Yaakov has 3 children, Reuven, Shimon, and Levi. But wait, when was everybody born? So like this. Reuven, right, so Reuven was born and Shimon was born. Okay. Reuven gets married to Sarah. Mazel tov. So now, Reuven dies, Lamaisa. Levi is not yet born. Reuven dies. So now Sarah does Yibum with Shimon, and then at some point Levi is born. Now, so at some point Levi is born. Levi is born after Reuven already dies. So now Shimon dies. And now Sarah needs to do Yibum with Levi. The thing is that at one point Sarah was married to Reuven, and Reuven is Levi's brother who never overlapped with him. Shelo haya ba'olamu, that they never dwelled in the world at the same time. So as I mentioned earlier, inherently Yibum is a relationship that's not allowed, right? You're not allowed to marry your brother's wife. If your brother gets divorced, you can't marry his wife. The chiddush of Yibum is that that's waived in the context of Yibum, that if Reuven dies, so then Reuven's wife does marry Shimon in the context of Yibum. But that only applies if Reuven and Shimon are alive at the same time. But in this case, where Reuven died before Levi was born, and then Sarah, who once upon a time was married to Reuven, who died before Levi was even born, is simply just considered the wife of Levi's brother, and Levi's not allowed to marry the wife of his brother because Yibum doesn't apply. Right, we wouldn't that whole thing about being unable to marry your brother's wife, right? That gets kind of waived in the context of Yibum, but that doesn't apply to a brother who died before you were born, and therefore all it is simply your brother's wife who you're not allowed to marry, and therefore, so in this case where Reuven was married to Sarah, Reuven dies, and Shimon does Yibum with Sarah. Levi is then born. Shimon then dies. Sarah cannot do Yibum with Levi because in relation to Levi, Sarah is the wife of Levi's brother Reuven, who died before he was born, and therefore it's simply not allowed. Okay, and finally, Vichalaso, his daughter-in-law. So, let's say, okay, so this is a case where, let's say you have Yaakov, okay? Yaakov is the son Reuven, Givaldik. Reuven is married to Sarah, Givaldik. So Sarah is Yaakov's daughter-in-law, okay? Let's say Reuven, Yaakov's son, dies, okay? Sorry to hear that. And then Sarah goes and marries Yaakov's brother, let's call him Yitzchak. So now Sarah marries Yaakov's brother Yitzchak, and then Yitzchak dies. So technically, who's going to do Yibum? Yaakov. But Sarah is Yaakov's daughter-in-law. So therefore, they would not do Yibum. Alright, friends. Well, that was 15 cases of Yevamos. how are your brains doing? Probably not so good. So, but as Rav Kana says to Rav, Torah v'lomod ani tzorich. It's Torah and we gotta learn it. So, friends, we gotta go weiter. So all of these examples, these 15 examples, potris, tzarosein, so they don't do yibum, and also any co-wives of theirs would not do yibum with this man. V'tzaros tzarosein, and also any future co-wives that they might have would not do yibum with this man. Mina chalitzu mina yibum at sofa olam. They wouldn't do chalitza, they wouldn't do yibum, sort of infinitely. It says the Mishnah v'chulan, and in all of these cases, imesu, omeanu, onizgarshu, oshnimtzu ailonis. And now in all of these cases, if this questionable relationship died, I'm going to read that again. So v'chulan, in all these cases, imesu, if they died, omeanu, okay, or if they did me'un, onizgarshu, they got divorced, or shnimtzu ailonis, so they turned out to be ailonis. Let's go weiter for a minute. Let's read that again. In all of these cases, imesu, if they died. So I think that the easiest example is to think of the daughter, the things that doesn't work by me'un, so we'll treat me'un separately. But so v'chulan imesu, so if they died, right? So let's just say for now, let's just take one example. I think the easiest one is the daughter. So, right, Ruvain is married to Sarah. Now the thing is that Sarah is Shimon's daughter, so we said that if Ruvain dies, so then Sarah doesn't marry Shimon because Shimon is her father. So, and then we said that this doesn't just apply to Sarah, but even if Ruvain had two wives, Sarah and Rivka, so just like Sarah, of course, wouldn't do a yibum with Shimon because she's Shimon's daughter. So then also Rivka, her co-wife, would not do yibum with Shimon either. So now, but if Sarah, Shimon's daughter, had died before Reuven did, right? So at one point, Reuven was married to Sarah and to Rivka. Sarah is Shimon's daughter, but Sarah dies. And then Reuven dies. So now all that's left is Rivka, the co-wife. And at the time that Reuven died, Sarah already had died. So Rivka, the co-wife, would be able to do yibum with Shimon, even though at one point she was married to Sarah. Right, so Rivka could do yibum with Shimon, even though at one point she was married to Sarah. So again, so v'chulan in all these cases, in Mesu, if they died, or Me'anu, or if they refused, let's get back to Me'un in a minute, because that's the one that we have to use a different example. Onis Garshu, right, or if they got divorced, right? So if Sarah, so Reuven had two wives, Sarah and Rivka. Sarah was Shimon's daughter, but Sarah divorced Reuven, and then Reuven dies. So Rivka can do yibum with Shimon, since at the time that Reuven died, Reuven was not married to Sarah, and therefore, even though at one point Rivka and Sarah were co-wives, at the time that Reuven died, they were not, and therefore Rivka can do yibum with Shimon. Or if it turned out that Sarah, Shimon's daughter, was unable to have children. She never reached, she's an Ilonis, a person who can never reach puberty, and it's impossible for her to have children. And so in that case, they basically call off the marriage, and therefore, also, if Reuben then dies, so Rivka can do yibum with Shimon, even though at one point she was a co-wife with Sarah. Now let's go back to Me'un for a second. So Me'un is something we already saw back in Brachis. Me'un is a situation where you have a girl whose father dies. Now in the Torah, a father can marry off his minor daughter, but a mother cannot. So now if her father dies and they want to marry her off for whatever reason as a minor, so even though according to Torah law that wouldn't be a proper marriage, but the rabbi said that the rabbis recognize the marriage, but you do not need a get in order to annul the marriage. She can simply just walk out. She could refuse to be with the guy. So let's say if we take the case of the daughter-in-law. So remember the case of the daughter-in-law from a few minutes ago. So you have Yaakov, and Yaakov has a son, Reuven. Reuven is married to Sarah. Sarah is Reuven's daughter-in-law. I'm sorry, Sarah is Reuven's wife, is Yaakov's daughter-in-law. Now the thing is that Sarah was a minor, and Sarah's father had died. And at the time that Yaakov's son Reuven married Sarah, her father, she was a minor, and her father was dead. So the relationship between Sarah and Reuven is this kind of derabanan status that she could refuse at any time, and she does. And therefore, if Reuven, Yaakov's son Reuven, is married to Sarah and is also married to Rivka, but Sarah refused to be with Reuven, so then if Reuven dies, and then so if Rivka then marries Yaakov's brother Yitzchak, and then Yitzchak dies, so it would be okay for Rivka to then do Yibum with Yaakov, even though at some point she was married, she was a co-wife with Sarah, who was wait a second. No, wait, one second. No, one second. That is not going to make sense. 1 second. Wait, so I think you could say that. Wait, so if Sarah was married to Reuven, when Reuven, right, and Sarah was a minor, and then Sarah, so since Sarah would technically be Yaakov's daughter-in-law, but she refused Reuven. Okay, fine. And then she ultimately then gets married to Yaakov's brother Yitzchak. Yitzchak dies, so now Yitzchak had two wives, right, Sarah and Rivka. So then we say that if Sarah had refused Reuven, then I guess that just kind of goes away. Although I guess it sounds like what we're saying, Sarah was saying, what is it? Sarah was saying mutaros, right? So it sounds like if Rivka, if Sarah did meun with Reuven, so then I guess now that Sarah is married to Yitzchak and then Yitzchak dies, I guess maybe Sarah would not do Yibum with Yaakov because it was his daughter-in-law, but Rivka can, I guess. Okay, wait, 1 second. Third time's the charm. This time I got it. 1 second. Okay, so it's like this. Okay, Yaakov's got a son, Reuven. Okay, now Reuven marries Sarah. Now Sarah is a minor. Now at this point, Sarah's father is still alive. Okay, and Sarah's father marries her off to Reuven, and it's a binding marriage, and therefore Reuven is, and therefore Sarah is Yaakov's daughter-in-law. Fine. Now, but then they get divorced or whatever, and then Sarah's father dies, and then Sarah then ends up marrying with like a sort of a derabanan kind of way Yaakov's brother Yitzchak. So now they're married in like a derabanan kind of level, and then Yitzchak has another wife, Rivka. Now, technically, if Yitzchak were to die, so then Sarah would not be able to do Yibum with Yaakov because Sarah is Yaakov's daughter-in-law, but at the same time, was once Yaakov's daughter-in-law, but at the same time, if she does Me'un, so 1 second, so Sarah would not be able to do Yibum with Yaakov, but also Rivka, her co-wife, wouldn't do Yibum with Yaakov either. However, if Sarah walks out, she's a minor and her father's already dead and she's only married on a Derabanan level, and she walks out of that, so then Rivka would be able to do Yibum with Yaakov. What do I want me to tell you? I think that works. Okay. Ketzad pochus tsarosein. So how is the situation of that their tsaras are pturis? I mean, as we've kind of explained already, Haisa bito or achas mikol arayu se'elu nesuas la'achiv. Right. So going back to the original example, so if Shimon's daughter was married to Reuven, right? So Reuven was married to Sarah, who was Shimon's daughter. Velo isha acheres, and Reuven has another wife as well, Rivka, umes, and then Reuven dies. Kshem shebito petura. just like Shimon's daughter Sarah doesn't do Yibum, Kach Tzarasa P'tura, so also Rivka is not going to do Yibum with Shimon either. Holcha Tzaras Bito V'nasa le'achiv. If then Rivka goes though and marries not Shimon but Levi, the third brother, Lachiv Hasheni, so to the other brother, V'lo Isha Acheres, and Levi has a wife, Rachel, okay, Umes, and then Levi dies, so Kishem Shetzaras Bito P'tura, just like Rivka would be P'tura from doing Yibum with Shimon, since at one time she was a co-wife with Sarah. So Kach Tzaras Tzarasa, so also Rachel, who's the co-wife of Rivka with Levi, would not do Yibum with Shimon. P'tura afilu ein mea, and this goes on indefinitely. Wait, one second, I skipped. Oh, dang it. One second, I skipped. One second. Let's just go back like 10 lines or something. Oh God. So if we go back to the third line of the page, right? So we said, V'chulan emesu miano nizgarshu v'shnimtzu ilonis, right? So we said that in all of these cases, if they, died or refused or got divorced or that they turned out to be an ilonis, so then we said that, so we're saying mutaros, right? So then their co-wives now are permitted, right? So we said like if Shimon's daughter Sarah had died, so then Rivka would be able to do, right, before Reuven died, and then Reuven died, so Rivka can do Yibum with Shimon. So we said, V'yata yachol b'chamoso v'eim chamoso, but now the Mishnah points out that when it comes to his mother-in-law, or the mother of his mother-in-law, v'eim chamiv, or the mother of his father-in-law, shnimtzu ilonis o shemiyanu, you can't say, right, it's obviously not possible to say that his mother-in-law is unable to have children, right? Obviously his mother-in-law gave birth to his wife, right? Or that she's a katana. If she's giving birth to his wife, then, she's not going to be a katana. So, okay, Seder, fine. And then we just explained like this whole thing of what exactly the tzaras things are, right? We said that, right, Shimon's daughter is married to Reuven, and then Shimon's daughter Sarah is also as a co-wife with Rivka, so, and then Rivka marries Levi, and, we said the co-wife just kind of goes on forever. So now going back to where we are, sorry I went out of order. So now, about 5 lines before the Mishnah ends, Keitzad and Mesu Tzarosein Mutaros. So what exactly, how does it work out that we said that if Sarah dies, so then Rivka can marry Shimon, right? So again, so Shimon's daughter, Sarah, is married to Reuven. Reuven has another wife, Rivka. So Sarah and Rivka are co-wives of Reuven. Now, we said that if Sarah dies, right, Sarah is Shimon's daughter. So of course, Sarah would not be doing Yibum with Shimon. But if Sarah dies before Reuven dies, and then Reuven dies, and now Rivka would be able to do Yibum with Shimon. So Keitzad, how does this work out? In Mesu, Saros in Mesu. So if Sarah dies, so then Sarosein Mutaros, so then the Tzara is permitted. Haisa Bito, and it's going to explain what that means. Haisa Bito, o Achas Mikol Arayos, o Elu, if his daughter or any of the other Arayos, Nesuos La'achiv, right? So Shimon's daughter Sarah is married to Reuven, V'lo Isha Acheres, and Reuven has another wife, Rivka, Mesa Bito, but then Sarah dies, Onis Garsha, or she gets divorced, V'acharkach Mesa Achiv, and then Reuven dies. So Sarah's dead, Reuven's dead, who's left? Shimon and Rivka. Tzaras Mutares, so then Rivka can do Yibum with Shimon. And then the Gemara concludes, the Mishnah concludes with saying, in any situation where they could do Me'un, right? So, I don't know, in that convoluted situation where like, the child was a katana and was able to do Me'un to refuse, but she did not refuse, she remained married, and then the husband dies. So in terms of Yibum, the co-wives would do Chalitza rather than doing Yibum, since they could have done Me'un, it was only a Derabanan marriage, so they just do Chalitza, they don't do Yibum, they just kind of avoid the whole Yibum thing. Friends, that was that base of Masechta Yevamos. How you guys doing? You guys need to go to sleep, right? Oh my gosh, this was insanity. I don't even know. I mean, there are 15 examples where we wouldn't do Yibum out of concern of Arayos, which is interesting because Yibum is inherently something that is like an erva kind of thing, right? you're marrying your brother's wife. But there are certain situations where we would say, look, these arayos are not allowed, and there were 15 examples that we gave. So what else do you want me to tell you? Peace out.